creating products to use in our classrooms and sell on Teachers Pay Teachers or other platforms can be a really helpful income stream, but hopefully it also meets a need for educators worldwide. And finding a niche as a teacher author can be kind of tricky at first, but today we're going to hear from Eddie Castañeda about how he's built up his TPT store, meeting a population's needs in the classroom. So Eddie, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Melissa. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, do you mind just telling us a little bit about how you got to this point in your career?
Yes, I've been in education for about 12 years now. Started in 2012. Started as a tutor, and then I actually became a substitute teacher, a long-term sub, and now a full-time teacher. Currently, I teach 6th grade, ELA, history, and also EOD. That's where I'm at currently right now.
Yeah. That's amazing. You got a lot going on. You said 6th grade. Okay. I love middle school. I started out teaching gifted middle schoolers. So special place in my heart for that. Rockin'.
Awesome. I love middle school as well. It's not for everybody. Definitely not for everybody. It's a transitional period for some of the students, but I enjoy it. I really been in middle school for like the past 10 years now. And to me, it's really rewarding.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, well, cool. Well, when did you start TPT? Because you said you've been doing teaching for a while. When did you start TPT?
So I was a TPT buyer since like 2016, 2017. I'd go on there, quick the resource I needed for either a quick lesson or a sub plan. But I started creating TPT content in about 2020 when COVID hit. We were teaching from home, and I wanted to create a lot of Google documents for my students to use in Google Classroom. And I started creating my LPAC material, which is my niche on TPT, LPAC, and SPAC material. Quick little story. I created LPAC material because I would go onto the LPAC website and have my students like practice the test, and I wanted to see the kids' results, but on the LPAC website, you can't see the results. So they can practice the test, they can toggle the tools, but they can't see the results. So I was like, I need data to go off of. So that's why I started creating LPAC material, because I went to my principal and rector at the time, and I was all like, is there someone we can get practice material? And they said no. And then my VP was all like, why don't you make it yourself? And just that little question was like, that's what started my TPT page. Yes,
that's amazing. Yeah. Well, let's step back for a second, because what does LPAC mean? For a lot of us who maybe don't live in your area, we might not have to even work with that.
Yeah, so it stands for English Language Proficiency Assessment for California. So essentially, it's for the EO population of California, the English language learners. So these students have to take an LPAC assessment for the state and to reclassify. And essentially, they have to get a 4 out of 4, like an A on this LPAC test. It's really difficult. It's to me, it's really difficult at first, at least, until the students know how to pass the test. It's for listening, reading, writing, and so the students. To me, what I tell my students is, if they fail this test, that they didn't fail it themselves. I failed them because I felt like my material prepares them for the assessment. So once they take it, they feel ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a state test. I'm sorry. It's a state test.
Yeah. No, so number one, it's high stakes. It's really important. And number two, you kind of created it out of this need, this kind of lack of information. And I love that it was your vice principal, you said, right? Your VP was like, why don't you make it? So that's so cool. I love it. But let's back up, because I know when I first created my store, and I'm like almost a year into creating TPT stuff. So I've been a buyer for a while too, like you. And so you kind of see what draws your eye and what has served you well and what was like a complete waste of money, perhaps. So looking back, 2020, hindsight is 2020, right? What went really well at the beginning, and what do you think was a waste of time in terms of being a TPT creator?
So in terms of being a TPT creator, I felt like I spent too much time creating a template. Like I wanted to perfect the template, and I wanted my practice assessments to look exactly like the actual LPAC test. So I felt like I created too much time on my template, but once I created a template, I felt like it was just easy to kind of turn them out. So I started off making middle school, which is what I was familiar with. And then, so I had friends that were teachers in K through 5, and I had a friend actually. It's pretty funny because at baby shower for my firstborn son, who's now 5, I had the material and I showed one of my teacher friends. I was like, "What do you think about this for elementary? Can I make it for elementary?" And they go, "Eddie, we don't have this here. This is awesome. Like, if you can make it for us, I try it out. I tell you, I'll give you some feedback." And so I made material for middle school first, and I went to 3rd to 5th. And 3rd to 5th LPAC material is actually my highest seller right now. It sells more than middle school. Yeah, they're almost on par, but if I wouldn't have showed her the material and she said, "You can make this for us too," and I was like, I could. I've done it with middle school. I could make it for 325 as well. So then I made 325, then I made second, then I made first, then I made 9 to 10. So essentially, I have OPAC material from grades first through 10th, which is the entire spectrum of the OPAC for students that need to take it.
That's crazy. Well, and to think of that range, I mean, most TPT authors would not dream of creating things for that range of students.
Yeah.
But because this is your niche is basically test prep materials, and you're working through. Now, I love what you said there. You mentioned it to somebody who teaches in lower grades. And I love that you also bring in your experience as a dad, homeschool mom here. And so a lot of what I make was stuff that I made. Yeah, there you go. We do what we need to do, you know, but the idea here is, you know, we draw from our experiences, and we are whole people. We are whole people. We are parents. We are spouses. We are teachers, and we've got friends. And perhaps those friends teach other grades. So I love this. And I think this is maybe how we connected, because you had mentioned showing your materials to somebody else and getting feedback from it. So that is something that I think is really underutilized. And I've done this before too. I've been like, hey, would you mind trying this out, or giving it away to somebody and saying, could you give me a little bit of feedback, or giving it to friends who might need it? You know, just that need is enough to kind of bring in a little bit more feedback to make it better. And you mentioned a template as well. So can we just back up a little bit? What happened with the template? Because that can take a long time. And I always recommend to people, like, get a good template. Make yourself a really good template. It makes everything so much easier. What was that process like for you? You said you wanted to make it like the test, right?
Yes, exactly. So what I do is I put it side by side. I put the OPAC assessment on one side and the other side. So it's like split screen, OPAC assessment, and then my template. I wanted to align it as close as possible, because I felt like teachers, when I first went on to TPT to look for OPAC material, I really couldn't find stuff that was aligned and that was similar to the test. So I wanted my OPAC assessment to look exactly like the OPAC test would look like. So I would literally go on there for the reading session, and then I'd see, like, for example, you see the reading on one side of the screen, and then on the other side you have 3 questions. So when I made my Google Documents, I did the exact same thing. I did my reading on one side, and then I lined up my questions 1, 2, 3, exactly how it would look on the assessment. Because I wanted kids to understand, like, you know, if you know how to practice it, then you know how to do well on the test. To me, practice makes perfect, you know? So that's what I wanted to do. So for the reading, the listening, the speaking, all the sessions are aligned to the actual OPAC assessment. And I feel like it's great content for teachers to practice, because, like I said before, you could practice on the website, but you couldn't get the results, and that's the most important.
Absolutely. Well, and you know, psychologically speaking, cognitively speaking, like, especially language is my bread and butter too. And so thinking of language acquisition, the more we can lower that anxiety, the better the outcome is likely to be. And so if we can say, if there's no surprises, even the format, down to the format, making it super, super clear that this is what it's going to look like. You can expect this, you can rely on this, and being able to deliver it, that's huge. So with your niche being so specific, tell us about some stories out in the wild. You've mentioned sharing it with other teachers. Tell us how it's worked out for your own students, and perhaps for some other people that you've seen pick it up.
Yeah, so I've had a number of students reclassify, thank God, which is once they pass the test, they have to get a 4, like I said. And once they pass it, they're able to reclassify, which means they could take, like, an elective course, like a creative writing class, or they could take PE. To me, that's the most rewarding. When I get those emails at the beginning of the year from our admins saying these students passed or reclassified, that's the best feeling in the world, because I tell these students all the time, I was like, I'm prepared for this test, so if you fail it, it's not your fault, it's my fault. And that's, to me, that's key, because we both kind of hold accountability and then passing the test. And they feel empowered as well. I've had some friends tell me when they've used it that, you know, it gives the kids confidence, because now the kids know what to expect. I felt like, especially on the writing portion, where the kids have rubrics based on, like, 3, 2, 1. I feel like if you just go over the rubric first and then go over the material, these kids, and they see, then the kids can see a difference between a 3 and a 2. It's not that big of a difference. Maybe another sentence, another detail they have to add into the writing. So I've had fans tell me how useful it is, and also the reviews I get on TPT. Like first year teachers saying that I had no idea what to do. This material really helped me focus in on what I need to focus on for the test for my students. And I've had, I think, a 9th grade to 10th grade OPAC material where I got a review where a teacher said that she felt confident to teach the material because she had no idea how to guide her students to pass that OPAC test. Because, to be honest, it's a state test where, like I said, you don't get the results on the practice website, so you're kind of just like doing the best you can and hoping your kids pass this test. And now I feel like with this material, not hoping, you're preparing.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
real. And this is
Yeah.
I love that you take ownership with the kids. I think that kind of speaks to your heart behind this. And so then
Yeah.
creating this and giving people that support so that other teachers can then go out and really take ownership with their own students. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Well, I'm clapping from over here and I don't even need to prepare kids for this. So very cool. Well, I think this is a beautiful picture of what it can look like to really expand your reach and your impact as an educator. So when newer teacher authors are thinking of how they might set up their store or how they might just get started, I think a lot of times we just start throwing stuff against the wall, like maybe this will work, maybe this will work. What kind of advice would you give a newer teacher author as they're getting started out? Because it sounds like you've kind of hit a gold mine really quickly.
I would say create something that you're passionate about, because it is work, right? It's not like it's going to be fun. I mean, it will be fun at times, but it is work. You're still literally creating content for teachers, and you want to perfect it to the point where teachers can literally print it out and use it. And also, you have to give directions and step-by-step instruction. If that's what I do as well. Find what you're passionate about, because I love what I do. I love teaching, and I love creating content now on TPT, because I've seen a difference, not just in kids' abilities to pass this test, but also giving teachers confidence to teach the material. Yeah, one piece of advice I give, like I said, is find something you're passionate about and be ready to work, of course, because it's not always easy. It's not always gonna be fun, but it's very rewarding, I feel like, because there's no better feeling than when you get the reviews, or I'll get texts from my friends saying how helpful it is. And secondly, what I would say as well is to create new material on TPT, look at people that are successful on TPT. Like, for example, when I first started, I went on TPT University. I think it's called Teacher Blog now. And I would go on there and I would look at people that commented or posted blogs on how their description looks, how their cover page looks, what's in the description, how much they set the price for, how much a bundle would be. So do your research before you start as well, because like I did, and if you do that, I feel like you can be successful from the get-go, as long as you have certain things that you're ready to do.
Totally. And
Yeah.
that's really important. It is, a fun side hobby for some people. And that is one way to treat it. But if it really is going to be the other income stream that many of us would like for it to be, it's a job. And it does take time. It does require research and keep learning. Just yesterday, I was listening to a podcast. It's no secret. I really love learning from Lauren Fulton, Rebranded Teacher Academy. She's got a great podcast. And she mentioned this related products generator from Bearwood Labs, which I had never heard of before. And yesterday went through and redid all of my descriptions and put in those related products, because it was too easy not to do. And it's one of those things that was on my list of, kind of pruning my descriptions to make them a little bit more helpful, and that's what we want to be. We want to be helpful.
Yeah, Mr. Real Fast. Also, I recently, this past weekend, I realized that my Google documents that I created are I need to transition them to PDFs. My wife was telling me as well, because I told her, like, I got a review and I was all like, what do you think? And then she goes, she's right, you need to put those into PDFs. It's a little more tedious. And when I created them, it was for, like I said, during COVID, people were at home. I thought it was easier to access that. But now I'm going to take this next couple of weeks to all my documents, all 250 of them, and make them into PDFs. Yeah, it's going to take some time, but I'm going to do it because it's worth it. I'm passionate about it. And I did say it's work, but it's enjoyable. Like, I don't see it as work. I see it as something that's a passion now. So now it's just something that I do, that I enjoy doing.
Yeah. And you're responding to a need. I mean, we were all on Google Classroom a couple of years ago, and maybe some people are still are. So maybe duplicate that listing and offer it in both or whatever. But there is that option. That's huge. That's really huge. Okay. Well, you mentioned you are a full-time classroom teacher. You are a dad. You are a husband, it sounds like. And so figuring out kind of how to manage all of this. This is a serious juggling act, as one parent to another and teacher to another. And so how do you manage your time between your teaching job and your product creation? Do you have kind of a strict schedule that you use, or time blocking?
Yes, time blocking for sure. So every Sunday from 6 to 10, I'll go to a local coffee shop and I'll create content. First, I'll grade for my school. So the first 2 hours I'll be grading, and the last 2 hours I create content. So that's my focus, from 6 in the morning to 10 a.m. Like you said, we're early risers. I'm an early riser as well. So my wife has Saturdays to kind of like enjoy herself, and she gets her time. And then Sundays in the morning are my time to create my content and to grade for my schooling. But it is tough. It's like I told my wife, I'm not gonna I'm not going to do it during the week because that's for school and also for my kids. I don't want to take time away from my kids. But Sunday is when I lock into TPT creation. That's when I enjoy making content. And I do it every single Sunday. Like there's no time I take off. Like even this weekend with the Super Bowl Sunday, I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna go create content. Yeah, drink my coffee because it's just something that I do now, something that I really enjoy. And also like there's no better feeling than when you're get notification saying that you sold something or you got a review. To me, that keeps me going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love that. And it sounds like you're disciplined. You've got some discipline in your life that you have figured out and it works well. And there is also that protection. You know, this is for my kids. This is you're caring for your wife as well, which clapping for you from over here. So there's a lot of discipline that is involved in this. And I think it can spiral really quickly for a lot of people, which is important to avoid. If we want this to be that, again, long-term kind of other income stream that we would like it to be, you know, dedicating those few hours on Sunday, fantastic. That's great. I am an online teacher and that's kind of my main income stream, but I decided to take off Friday afternoons and that is my product creation time. And so I fully agree with you there, finding that time block that works for you where you can really dedicate time to this because the other things are kind of other mental trains that we need to get onto. And, you know, being in PDF land is something different. So feeling on that. Let's talk about how your everyday teaching might affect your product creation. So obviously this is part of your classroom experience too. Do you think there's other things that kind of feed into how you create and how you put your products out there for people that you've learned from your everyday teaching?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, when I create the OPAC materials because of the need. So I feel like when I'm teaching my class, I see what my students need, and I usually put that into my content as well because I do teach in East LA. I love teaching there, and the students that I teach, a lot of them need EOD, and I just noticed that my students, some of my students struggle with writing, some with reading. So that's when I usually kind of hone in on my material. Okay, how would I teach them how to better read? How would I teach them how to better write? And for writing, sentence starters, fill in the blanks. So that's what I take from my classroom to like my content creating. I try to give step-by-step instructions on what the teacher should do, what works for me, strategy that works for me for my kids. But yeah, that's usually how I take from the classroom onto my TPT creation or my content creation.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, I love it. And I feel like even as parents too, I mean, you were mentioning, was it Baby Shark or something, like bringing in other other cultural elements for our kiddos, right? That they're just anything to get them their eyes on the page, keep them focused, keep them motivated too. That's really huge.
Yes, my students love soccer, so I bring in like Messi or Ronaldo into reading comprehension assignments, and the kids zone in, they super lock in. Yeah, so that's the best part too. Like you said, you gotta find what they're into, and then use it to your advantage.
Read the room, people. Read the room. I love it. I love it. Yes. Well, very cool. All right. Well, Eddie, it has been a pleasure to get to talk to you. Very, very fun to hear kind of how you've put this all together. It sounds like you really love what you're doing. So I would love to hear kind of what's one big thing that you love about your space in the creation, in the content creation and education world right now.
Yeah. So for content creation, like I said, I just love getting those reviews and also from friends. Let me know how it works, how I can better, because I always feel like I'm trying to get better, trying to learn new things. Like you said earlier, I'm always trying to learn. So I love the part of content creation is, like I said, I would still go on to TPT blogs and see what works now and see how I could change my products to make it better. And it's in the classroom. I just enjoy teaching. I love teaching. I know it's been tougher since COVID. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a little more difficult. But I'm seasoned. I'm experienced in the classroom, so I was able to kind of move past the COVID teaching. Yeah. But in the classroom, like I said, I just enjoy what I do, and content creation, I love what I do as well. And you just have to make it work. You have to make both work. And I try to find time. And I also have kids. I have a 5-year-old and I have a 8-month-old now. So it's not the easiest. Yeah, it's not the easiest, but we make it work. We make it work.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing what you do. And it sounds like it's a real passion for you. So I'm excited to have people kind of hear that and know that this is something that you can take from kind of a bland, probably standardized test to a real need being met in terms of your TPT store. So thank you, Eddie. And for those of you who are watching, thank you for what you're doing. If nobody's told you yet today, thank you.